So thank you very much for joining me on this workshop, How to Shift Your Need to Please. Today, we're going to go through the Pleaser Saboteur, what it is, and some insights into how it impacts you in your life. I'm going to go through an exercise, a visualization exercise to help you tap into your own wisdom within, and then provide some powerful tools so that you can quieten your Pleaser Saboteur and step into the more powerful, resourceful part of your mind. And then we'll have time at the end for questions and answers. So a little bit about me beforehand. My name's Georgina Hallaby. I'm a performance and wellbeing coach. I've been a coach for about 4 years now. And before that, I was working in the marketing and the advertising industry across, UK, Singapore, Switzerland, France. My job was really helping businesses to create a footprint within Asia. So I'd pretty much do everything from operations to sales to marketing to teams. And so my job's always been full on. I've always had to fly the plane or to build the plane as I fly it. And it's always been very important for me to balance two fundamental needs. So one is the need for outer success. And the other one is the need for inner peace, which is why all my coaching is about marrying the two, being able to have both performance and well-being and not one at the expense of the other. So that's enough about me. Let's crack on with the pleaser and what the pleaser is. So let's see if any of this sounds familiar. And if it does, chances are you've got a high pleaser saboteur. So to be a good person, I must put the needs of others before myself. Expressing my own needs feels selfish and it will drive others away. I must give loads of love and affection to get any back, and I must earn love as I'm simply not worthy of it. So this is scratching below the surface of our unconscious thoughts that have us showing up in pleaser mode. And what are the characteristics of us showing up in pleaser mode? Well, we try and gain love and acceptance from others by helping, pleasing, rescuing, or flattering them. We can't express our own needs openly or directly. We need frequent reassurance from others about love and affection. And we give and give and give, often without being asked. And this means that because it's an unequal energy exchange, we get frustrated and resentful about being taken for granted. So it sounds exhausting, and it is exhausting having a high pleaser saboteur. So why do we put up with it? Well, the pleaser saboteur is very, very smart. It feeds us lies in order to justify its being. And some of these lies include the following. If I don't rescue people, who will? If I don't do this for myself, I do it selflessly, and I don't expect anything in return, which often isn't true. There's always a hidden agenda. And the world would be a better place if everyone would do the same. See, these sound fantastic. We're so giving, we're so helpful, we make the world a better place. But actually, what our saboteurs do is they take our strengths and they use it to flagellate us. They use it to keep us in a constant state of anxiety, right? So actually what it's doing is not helping us be better people. It's making us feel constantly anxious and having to give and to give and to give without getting our own needs met, without being able to express or to ask what it is that we want. And so it creates a wedge in relationships because resentment starts to build. So what we think is a good thing about our pleaser saboteur actually isn't. Now, the strengths of our pleaser, the strengths that we have that our pleaser saboteur takes for granted are the following. We're highly empathetic. We are loving and caring people. We are highly tuned into the emotions. Sorry, Diane. Can I just get you to mute yourself? All right. So we are tuned into others' feelings and needs. We're highly adaptable and flexible. We are emotionally self-aware, and we have potential for high emotional intelligence, right? So our saboteurs take all of these strengths and they use them to create a constant source of anxiety where we feel like we need to keep on pleasing just in order to be loved, right? So we all have a cast of saboteurs living in our heads, and most of these we're born with them. And some of them, a very few, small proportion of them are actually created through our childhood, but most of them were actually born with them. And some of these saboteurs will be very familiar to you. So the universal saboteur is the judge. We all have the judge, and everything that we do in life, every single thing that we consume, visually or otherwise, we judge. It's good, bad, or meh. We're indifferent to it. And we don't just judge things, we judge others. We judge circumstance. For example, I'll only be happy when others love me. I'll only be successful if I get this promotion. It's all conditional. Or the other thing is we judge ourselves. Now, we judge ourselves so many more times than you're even conscious of. And when you start to notice the discussion and the narrative of the saboteurs in your head, you'll realize just how the judge is connected to all of our saboteurs, how the judge is connected to our pleaser. You're not good enough. You're not worthy enough. You need to constantly prove yourself. You need to constantly make yourself available or put others towards you, others ahead of you. And some of the other saboteurs include the victim, the hyperachiever, the stickler, which is the perfectionist, the controller, the hypervigilant. The hypervigilant believes that the other shoe is about to drop. The sky is about to fall on our head. We have to constantly be 3 steps ahead of whatever danger is in front of us. And you're kind of getting the picture now that all of these saboteurs are all about survival. They actually come from a part of your brain which is all about survival. The part of our brain that had us surviving on the African plains to make sure that we weren't eaten by, a lion, we were hypervigilant, or to ensure that we pleased people enough, or we were amenable enough to stay within our monkey troop so that we weren't cast out, which would be certain death, in those days. So our saboteurs live in the part of our brain. And our saboteurs motivate us through negative emotions such as fear, stress, anger, guilt, shame, or insecurity. Now, the thing to remember is they might generate success. They might generate short-term fixes like you being accepted, but they never generate long-term happiness because there's that constant anxiety of having to give over and over again. None of it is sustainable. Whereas there's a different part of your brain, which is your prefrontal cortex, and we call this your sage brain. Now, this comes online when you're about 12 years old, and it doesn't stop developing until you're 21 years old. And this is the part of our brain that can watch itself. We can witness ourselves. We can start to notice our own behaviors, our own thoughts. It has that meta-awareness. It's the part of our brain that is creative, resourceful, and whole, and empathetic. One that provides us vision and perspective, allows us to live within our values. Now, when we activate this part of our brain, which is our sage part of our brain, right, the prefrontal cortex, it's pure consciousness. And this part of our brain motivates us through positive emotions, such as compassion, kindness, curiosity, perspective, creativity, and wisdom. And unlike the saboteurs, the sage is best at generating your highest success and happiness in a way that is sustainable. So, that sounds wonderful. How do we get out of our sage brain, out of our saboteur brain, and into our sage brain so that we can inhabit our strengths fully without all the anxiety and the stress of having to constantly please? Well, let's break that down. Let's look at how we can do that, and I'll give you some tools shortly, but let's look at how it feels differently within the pleaser context. So first of all, empathizing and giving is a wonderful choice, right? Either way, but the pleaser will take this and make it conditional. I will give conditionally, and the price is you have to love me back. You have to give me that affection back. So it comes with a personal agenda, and it's ultimately about you. It's not actually about that person you're trying to help or the world you're trying to save. It's about the need that you have to fill within yourself. Now, the sage choice looks at giving and empathizing in a very different light. It has a very different flavor. There's actual joy in the giving. You've got those positive emotions that you can feel from giving. No return is necessary. You give and you please, or you're there for others You're compassionate and in empathy because you can be. It's unconditional. That's how it feels different. There's positive emotions associated with the sage and negative with the pleaser, your pleaser saboteur. So let's not take my word for it. Let's actually do an exercise now where we're going to go in and you're going to access that part of your brain, which is sage. Okay? So I'm going to invite you to just close your eyes and to take 3 deep breaths. Giving yourself a moment to appreciate the time and the space that you're giving yourself for your own well-being and happiness so that you can be the best version of you possible. Okay? Now, what I'd like you to do is I want you to focus on the sounds, all the sounds that you can hear in the far distance. And what can you hear in the near distance? Can you hear your breath? Continuing to breathe now, I want you to focus on what you can taste. What can you taste? And does this change on the in-breath or the out-breath? Now start to notice what you can smell. Is this connected to your sense of taste? And finally, I want you to notice the tactile sensations of every part of your body that is in contact with itself. That might be your hair on the nape of your neck. It might be your lips in contact with each other, your teeth, your hands against your legs, or the feel of your feet against the floor. And as we anchor into our body, we switch off the narrative of our saboteur mind. And when we do so, our sage mind automatically comes online. It's always there, we just often can't hear it. Now, I want you to imagine somebody who loves you deeply. And I want you to visualize them in front of you. Closing your eyes, I want you to see them there. And notice the way that they look at you. Feel the love and the affection. And I want you to notice through their eyes what they see in you. All of your qualities, the beautiful essence of who you are. What can you see? Just notice the qualities as if you were looking through their eyes. And as you do so, start to recognize these qualities within yourself, a part of your true nature, what makes you unique and entirely lovable, just for being you. And from this space, I want you to notice someone else coming to join now. And this is you, but a future version of you. This is you in your 80s, and I want you to see yourself happy, healthy, sane in mind and body, and of a ripe old age where you don't give two hoots what anyone thinks. You've got the experience, the life experience, and the wisdom to be comfortable within yourself. And I want you to literally, visually see this you. Notice everything about this you, your energy, who surrounds you. And I want you to approach this 80-year-old self and notice how they smile at you, so happy to see you. And you ask that 80-year-old you, what advice have they got to give you about your need to please? What do you need to let go of, and what do you need to take up? And if you have any questions to ask this 80-year-old you, ask it now. And then take 2 more deep breaths, slowly saying goodbye to your inner you, this 80-year-old version of you, and this person who loves you. Slowly bringing your senses back into the room, back into your body, integrating with it the wisdom that you just learned from within yourself. And when you're ready, just open your eyes. Diane, you're on mute right now, but would you like to share what that advice was?
I'm really looking forward to meeting that older version of myself who feels confident and feels like I did a good job. Because I don't often feel that way. Sorry.
That's okay. What advice did she give you?
Keep being the powerful creator. I listen to Louise Hay a lot. I'm sorry, I don't know. I'm just having a wave here.
That's okay.
Louise Hay says we create our reality, right? So I always do my best to create the most positive reality. Sometimes I'm working under very negative conditions. A lot of times lately, but I'm still working on making things positive.
I'm hearing how you're at choice here.
Yeah. I'm trying not to let what everything else that's going on in the world suck me in. I'm trying to stay in my own little vortex because, I live in a good house in a very safe neighborhood. And I enjoy meditation. I've started, a very dear friend of mine got me started listening to Panache Desai. And I love listening to his meditations and his monologue in the morning. And then I learned about David G. and I started listening to him. So
it's wonderful. It sounds as if you're surrounding yourself by lots of positivity. And I think,
yeah,
one of the gifts and also the burdens of being somebody who has a high pleaser saboteur is you have an exceptional capability for empathy. And
yes.
empathy is often taking on the suffering of others. But if you think about it, if your child has a headache, it doesn't serve them or it doesn't serve you if you have a headache too.
Exactly. Yeah. My oldest has migraines, and we found this thing on his brain called an arachnoid cyst. And then I went and panicked and quit my job because I was convinced he needed neurosurgery. And he struggles with depression, and even the therapist thought the same thing I did. Oh, this is something that's going to require neurosurgery. And it turns out it's probably just some stress and some sensitivities to some dairy and gluten and stuff like that. Change the diet a little bit, which, of course, I'm trying to bring some healthier items into the kitchen, and I'm running into resistance on that too, because, nobody wants to change their diet, silly stuff like that. So I didn't tell anyone yet, but I did put in a job application almost a week ago. So I emailed it in and they said that they got it. And of course, being summer and being in COVID and everything's slow, but they said they would get back to me in about 3 weeks. And that puts me at a time where, early August, I think my schedule will slow down a little bit. There's a lot of things going on with my family this month of July that I wouldn't be able to start a job this month. But I think in August, things are going to settle down for me a lot. And I'll be able to get my schedule more organized. And so I'm hoping to hear, I'm crossing my fingers and praying that this one will work, because it's a nicer, less serious, less stressful, more fun type of job than the other one that I had just quit, because that was in the medical field. And I think I used to be a nurse, and I think I just need to be out of the medical. I don't think I can do it anymore. I keep trying to go into other places in the medical field, and I think it just overwhelms me. So I think I just need to allow myself to liberate myself from it without any guilt, because, you can't do it. And I just need to step out of it. There's a lot of other areas to work. I don't have to be doing something in the medical field. So, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's a good thing. I didn't even tell my husband. I didn't want to jinx it, so I didn't tell anybody. But my oldest child knows. He's 18. He knows because he helped me with some of the downloading a PDF of the application. Some of my old resume had a lot of things on it that I didn't want to bring into this job, so I had to do some editing before I submitted it. And my oldest helped me do that. So.
Yeah, it's lovely hearing you in action and actually changing things.
Yeah, and it feels good to have an iron in the fire somewhere. It's cooking while I'm doing all these things I got to do.
Yeah.
Something's cooking somewhere else. So eventually I'll hear from somebody somewhere along the way. And the month of July is like craziness for me, but looks like the month of August is going to be better. And it's all good craziness. I got my son and my youngest into 2 camps this summer one is sponsored by a private charity group and one is sponsored by the state. So we don't have to pay for them. And, there's some extra testing and stuff. He has autism, so he struggles. But I always challenge him. So he meets this the demands on him very well. He's very smart. And yeah, I think it's all going to work out. I just think I need to stop stressing and obsessing about it and just let myself have peace.
There you go. So this is why this whole topic is around, I'm hearing how, wow, in the last month or two, you've had some highs and then you've had some complete lows, everything with your son and the scare and the cyst. And so, we talk about mental fitness as being able to be in a position where you can face anything that life throws at you without freaking out, but with a resilience, with this mental aptitude where you can turn anything into a gift or an opportunity. And there's a certain ease and flow that comes from when you aren't listening to your saboteurs. And I'm guessing that there was a whole load of narrative about, I have to quit my job, I have to do this, he's going to die, all these horrible things arising. That in retrospect, you think,
yes, that's exactly what was happening.
Yeah.
And it was all coming from within, because the nurse practitioner who sent us to get my 18-year-old the brain MRI, it was just a routine brain MRI due to migraines. And there was no reason to believe anything would show up on it. But
so the opportunity now, the gift, so the way that we look at it from a sage perspective is that anything can be turned into a gift or an opportunity. And I'm already hearing you doing that with, I can get out of the medical industry. I can actually go for a job where I have this lightness to me, where I'm enjoying it. So it's brilliant seeing sage in action. Let me go back to the sage mind and the saboteur mind and how it affects the pleaser, right? So I'm hearing that you got amazing advice from your 8-year-old you, just about carrying on being who you are. And whenever we go to that part of ourselves, that 8-year-old us, or whatever age it is, it has the wisdom and perspective that sometimes we can't see when we're caught up in the now and all of the franticness of what's happening in the moment, right? So what our sage brain often tells us is the pleaser's way of filling the void of being unloved will never succeed, right? The only solution is unconditional self-love, unconditional self-acceptance. And this is really, really hard, especially for pleasers. It's often easier for pleasers to look at themselves through the lens of somebody else that loves them and to see their own qualities rather than being able to do it for themselves. But here's the trick. Here's what's really important is, as a parent, you can never teach your children unconditional self-love. And I think this is the biggest gift we can give them. We can never teach it to them if we don't have it ourselves. And so it is something that we need to cultivate.
Amen.
We need to.
Amen to that.
Yeah, because they're
very true.
They're too.
We have to live it. We have to model it. We have to show it, give it. Yeah, that's very true.
And so one of the things that I often give my clients, especially who are pleasers and who are constantly having to give, is the practice of receiving. So one of the homeworks that I tend to give them is create situations where people show gratitude towards you. So it could be acts of service, which you tend to do, or to give you compliments, or just even ask somebody, what do you like about me? And then, and here's the challenging part, you listen to what they say, all of these wonderful things about you, and then you say 2 magical words. Say after me. Thank. Diana, you're on mute. Thank. You can say it on mute. And then the next one is you.
Thank you.
And then zip it, throw away the key. Thank you. That's it. And you just start to notice what's coming up for you. And as narratives, as people are being nice to you and they're offering you gratitude, and instead of going, oh, what's this old dress? Or no, it's nothing. Instead of deflecting all of that love and attention, which is what it is that you're craving, just notice what's coming up for you as you receive it. And here's the kicker. It's an energy exchange. Everything is an energy exchange. So whenever you give, you wouldn't be able to give if there wasn't somebody who could receive. It just wouldn't work. It would just fall over.
Sure. Yep. Right? I see that. Yep.
And if everyone just gave, nobody would be able to receive. So when you give to people, you give because you get, a chemical reaction from it. You get all of the lovely endorphins, you get that feeling of being able to give something to someone. Now imagine you took your time out and you gave something, you did something beautiful for somebody, really thoughtful, really lovely, and they just went, yeah, no thanks, it was nothing. You'd feel gutted because you're putting that positive intention in and you want them to receive it, because you also get that gratitude, you also get that positive feeling from giving. So when you receive, essentially what you're doing is you're giving the gift of allowing others to give. You're removing any agenda away from it, and you're just being an open vessel for energy exchange, giving, receiving. It's just like flows. It's like waves on a beach. You need both, and you can't have one without the other. And so by being able to receive, you're actually giving a gift. So that's the second thing. The first one being unconditional self-love. Then the third one is boundaries. Boundaries are really, really important to pleasers, right? Being able to say no is an abhorrent idea for any pleaser. But reframe the way that you look at it, because every single time you say no, it's actually an opportunity. It's a yes to something else. So imagine you're constantly saying, yes, 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 I'll do this to everyone else. And then you have no energy for what's really important to you or what your priorities are. You might not have time for your children or your best friends. You're constantly pulling out energy from the bottom of the barrel. Every single time you say no, you're respecting yourself and you're saying yes to that self-care, that unconditional self-love, that time to focus on what it is that really makes you passionate, really makes you alive. And when you show up in that way, you're a gift to the world. You are a gift to the world. It's the reason you're here. You're completely unique. So creating boundaries and learning to say no is essential. So those are the three antidotes: unconditional self-love, fierce self-care, right, which is the receiving, which is like putting on that mask, in an airplane. When the airplane goes down, you have to put on the oxygen mask on yourself so that you can be there for others. And then the other one.
I'm sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
But I just want to say I had to fiercely disagree with my husband yesterday, and he is not an easy person. He gets very, how should I say? He's stuck in his ways, and he's not easy to disagree with. He prefers that people agree with him. And I'm proud of myself because I disagreed with him and I let him know. And then he had to process it whatever way he has to. He didn't like it. Tough. Because he was wrong. And I told him so.
Yeah.
And I'm proud of myself for that.
Yeah.
He's not an easy person to stand up to because he's very, take charge. That whole masculine, be in control of everything all the time thing. But, he's not a stupid person either. He's a very, very smart man. And where we agree so much. And then we have these spurts of disagreement. And those spurts can get very detrimental to us both. And I just have to say, look, this is how I see it. I see it different from you. I think you're wrong in this situation. And you can be angry with me. And that's fine. But this is how I see it. And this is how I feel. Yes. And yeah, he gave me the silent treatment. He didn't speak to me for the rest of the evening. And I said, okay. So I had a peaceful evening with my son. And we had a nice dinner. Took a walk. Got to bed in time. So we couldn't stay up too late because we have the summer school starting today. And we still made the best of it.
That takes great.
And I'm proud of myself for that.
And great sage. So when you talk about with your husband, when you get along really, really well and you agree on certain things or agree on everything. So it sounds to me like this is you both in sage mind. So you have, everything is interrelated. As individuals, we're all interrelated. And there is often a very interesting dynamic that I've noticed between people with a high pleaser tendency and those with a high controller saboteur as well. It's like they fit
Yeah.
together really
Yeah.
well.
We're kind of like magnets to each
Yeah.
other.
Yeah, and there's a beauty to that as well,
Ah,
because there is so much that you can learn
like,
from each other, but only in sage
yeah.
mind. So when
Yeah.
you're both at saboteurs, right, need to please and the need to
Yep.
control banging together, but it sounds as if you stepped into your sage, going out for a walk in nature, spending time with your son, and you weren't impacted. And in fact, just showing up in sage allows that other person to slowly dismantle. Or even
Yeah.
if they keep on
Exactly.
plotting against you, you're
That's
not
what I'm
impacted.
finally learning now. 20 years of being married, and I'm finally learning that. Just voice my disagreement, set my boundary, and he's going to be angry about it. Let him be the fire breathing dragon for 2 hours. Let him go off and not talk to me. I'm still going to disagree with him
Mm.
about things from time to time. Not always. I mean, he's a very smart man. He's an excellent provider. He does excellent things financially that I totally agree with, you know, but when we disagree, we really disagree. And this was one of those big ones.
Yeah. And you
And
would
we
have,
were in the supermarket too. So we were out where, other people could hear us. And I just stood my ground. And I'm patting myself on the back for that today. That was very good.
yeah. And you would have energetically have chosen each other for that reason. And there is a gift that you can give each other when you approach things from sage. So
And
with
it was
that,
about my son too. And I think it benefited my son that I stood my ground because my son really needed that.
yeah.
My husband was angry with my son, and I've been angry with my son too. I've made that mistake because I don't want to believe that, my son's having a harder time doing something than his peers because of autism. But you know what? That approach doesn't work. It just doesn't work. You just got to do more repetitions and more practice and more patience and more unconditional love and all that stuff. Just that's why I take my son to the supermarket. He's 16, and the more he gets out, the better. He has his own phone. If he gets separated from me, he'll call me or I'll call him. He knows where most things are. I was in line at the deli counter, and I was able to send my son ahead to get a big package of these monster drinks that my oldest likes to drink. And he went and got it, brought it back to me, and we put it in the shopping cart, the trolley, like you guys say, on the
Yeah.
other side of the pond.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, that was beautiful for my son to be able to separate from me and come back. And I have a lot of separation anxiety about him, even though he's 16, because the autism thing.
Mm.
And so that's really good for us both. We're in a spot right now where we had a therapist and then we didn't. And they're very hard to find right now. So we have a company that's working to find someone else. Until they do, I'm doing the best I can to fill in that role. And my son is amazing. He just needs his own pace. He needs the world to slow down a little bit so he can process. And, yelling at him doesn't make him do things any better. Just like I don't like to be yelled at. Nobody likes to be yelled at. But my husband thinks yelling at people makes them move along better. So
Yeah.
we were kind of like the lion and the lioness. Rawr, rawr.
Yeah. So I'm hearing the
And then,
unconditional.
okay, now it's time to pay for the groceries. Can we go ahead and pay for the groceries now because we have to do that?
Mm.
So, and then, my husband says some stupid things like, how do you know this? I'm like, well, I've spent years watching videos on YouTube, and I'm a former nurse. I have experience with people experiencing mental health issues in varying degrees, sometimes a crisis, sometimes, lifelong stuff. But, he doesn't want to, give anybody else credit because it's all about him. But that's how my father-in-law is too. So I see where my husband got this from.
So
My father-in-law
we're
very much that.
we're all subject of our conditioning, and
Yeah.
when we're younger,
Product of the environment.
product of I mean of the
And my
environment.
husband is very negative. He does beautiful things. He's very positive. He's very talented. And he'll sit here and tell you all the negative stuff in politics and watch CNN all day. And I've gotten to the point where I don't even watch TV anymore. I get the news. I want to know what's going on. I can do that in 10, 15 minutes. I know the politicians are playing their games, and I'm going to go off and do what I need to do.
Yeah. So Diane, I'm aware of the time, and what I want to do is I want to give you some tools, because even small things like you dealing with the anxiety of your son going off for, a little while he goes to get something to put in the trolley, it's being able to master those emotions, and your intention was sage and it was good, but at the same time you've got all those feelings. So it's really about giving you the mental fitness to be in that sage mode no matter what. So did you notice?
Thank you. That would be
It's my pleasure.
fantastic.
And this is something that the more you practice it, the more you're going to be creating the neural pathways so that this becomes habit, as opposed to defaulting to sort of negative saboteur tendencies. So did you notice when we did the meditation, I used your body. We first of all focused on your sense of hearing, and then taste and smell. We use our body as a vehicle to switch off our narrative mind. We switch off our brain by using our body. Okay, because our brain is constantly worrying about the future and all the things that could go wrong, or all the things that we have to do, or it's constantly fretting about the past and, regretting things or replaying things. And all of these are actually figment of our imagination. They don't exist. The only thing that really exists is our conscious awareness of the present moment. And our body only lives in the present. It doesn't live in the future. It doesn't live in the past. So when we use our body, even the tactile sensations, which I was getting you to feel into your body, switches off the narrative mind. And when you switch off the narrative mind, your saboteurs shut up. You quieten your saboteurs. And then you can hear your sage. Your sage is always there. It whispers instead of shouts. And from that space, we can access all the wisdom that we need. So this is all the premise of something called positive intelligence. And I'm going to take you through like a really simple step-by-step approach to switch you from saboteur mind, from getting hijacked, to switching on your sage mind. So it trains 3 core muscles. So the first one is the saboteur awareness. Okay, I'm being hijacked. The second one is the self-command that will switch you into your prefrontal cortex, right, at will. And then the third one is your sage muscles, which has a load of superpowers, things like empathy, perspective, innovation, creativity, all of these wonderful things. And this positive intelligence framework is actually based on cognitive behavioral therapy, positive psychology, the best of sports science, and they've basically combined it with additional research that's they've done across like Forbes 100 CEOs and their exec teams, Stanford students as well, because the guy who created this Shirzad as a lecturer long-term lecturer at Stanford, world-class athletes, and over 500,000 participants in over 50 countries. So it's huge, and it's impacting people both as individuals but as leaders as well, and whole organizations. And the premise is we tap into our body doing something called PQ reps. So if you think about the idea of mental fitness, you go into the gym to get physically fit, and you might do reps, like squats or weights or whatever, and you do that to build muscles. Well, we use PQ reps to build our muscles. PQ stands for positive intelligence quotient. So you've heard of EQ and you've heard of IQ. Your PQ is your ability to default to a positive mindset rather than a negative mindset, to a sage response instead of a saboteur response. And generally, you need to sort of have 3 positive thoughts to every negative thoughts, because the negative ones just shout louder, right? So it's really hardcore training your mind to create new maps, because we live so much in the saboteur realm. We're constantly reacting to things.
Yes, that's very true. The negative ones do shout louder. Yep.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So what we do is we do PQ reps. Now, this is the most simple PQ rep, and it takes 10 seconds. So take your 2 fingers and ever so gently just rub them against each other. And I want you to really feel into sensations that you can feel. So can you feel the fingertip ridges, for example? And do your hands feel dry or moist? What's the temperature and the texture? Just really notice. Just notice how your mind is, the state of your mind. Is it calm and quiet? And that's because you've just switched off your narrative mind. That easy. You can do that either with rubbing your 2 fingers or literally tuning into your breath, but focusing on it. Breath is dynamic and it's interesting enough to keep us engaged for a long time, and we carry it with us wherever we go. It takes 3 short breath cycle or 10 seconds to literally switch off your narrative mind, right? And use that self-command to switch off your sage mind. That's all it is. So this is the operating system that they use. This is how it goes. So 1, if you're feeling negative emotions, stop. You're in saboteur mode. This could be your pleaser, it could be your judge, it could be any of the other saboteurs that you have. Then you do 10 seconds of PQ reps, like this, rubbing your fingers, or it could be hearing, or any of your 5 senses, right? To quieten your saboteur and to step into your sage mind. From there, you assume the sage perspective that every problem can be converted into a gift or an opportunity. And then you create that gift by using your sage powers of curiosity, empathy, creativity, calm, clear-headed action, right? Remind yourself when you're in your pleaser mode and you've just switched off that pleaser saboteur and you've activated your sage mind. Use that navigate power that you had from earlier, which was that 8-year-old you. Don't sweat the small stuff. Be who you are. Continue doing the work that you do. There's always a sense of perspective. So once again, if you're feeling negative emotions, that's the clue. You're in saboteur mode. Stop. Do some PQ reps. All it takes is 10 seconds. Switch on your sage brain. And then from there, you create the gift by stepping into your resourcefulness, creativity. You ask yourself, what is the most empowering thing for me right now? What is the gift in this situation? That's all it takes. It's so simple. I mean, you can do it in like 15 seconds. And the beauty, especially if you use breath or you feel into your toes, you could be in a meeting with your new job and nobody will know. You don't have to stop and you can literally do it wherever you're at. You could be in the supermarket. Your son's going off to get whatever it is he's getting and you're feeling anxious. Breathe, feel the texture of the shopping trolley under your hands, feel the feet against the earth, against the ground. Notice all of the different products in front of you. Just get into your body and switch off that narrative mind. Because when you are in that space, you're in that space where you're automatically able to respond by being present. You're at your most effective, you're at your most resourceful. You're just getting your saboteurs out from under your feet.